Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are talking strictly about yardage judging today. This is something I've done my whole life. Known as one of the best yardage judgers that ever lived, which I don't think that I probably am. A lot of people call me a walking rangefinder. They think I just go out on the range and judge all these targets perfectly, and that's how I win these tournaments. What I do, just to give you a little background on yardage judging, like I don't get rangefinders when I shoot these tournaments. All these tournaments in my class, which was the original pro class, the game is you judge the distance. I have to figure out how far this target is, set my sight to my guesstimated judge, then shoot the target, which means if I'm off by more than a yard, I'm not hitting what I'm aiming at, pretty much. So I have to be very good at yardage judging, but more than that, and what I try to tell people, I'm not perfect at yardage judging. I think it's a decision making and a strategy that makes people so good. You talk about guys like Dan McCarthy, that has been my toughest competition for a long time. Chris Hacker, Chance Boboff, those guys that are archery intelligent. They strategize better than the rest of the field. It's not that they're that much better at yardage judging and that much better at shooting. They are that much better at strategizing. They're that much better at making good decisions with the number they come up with. So let's get into my thought process when I walk up to the stake on tournament day, on how I'm going to judge a target on the range. And a lot of times that strategy changes depending on the situations. If I have to have a 12, that strategy changes. If I have to have a 14, that strategy changes. If I only need an 8 to win, that strategy obviously changes. So let's get into that a little bit. Let's just go up. This is a normal target on a qualifying day, but it's not a crucial thing that I have to 12 it. Every target I'm trying to 12, but most of the time during the qualifying round, I'm just trying to protect that 10 ring and give myself a great chance at 12ing the target. So this is a coyote target. I have a ton of history with this target. Not good history. This target's cost me a ton. Never because I shot it high. If anything, I always underjudge this target. So what I would recommend to you in practice at home, you're taking notes constantly when you're practicing. If I'm coming to my range to practice, I'm going to have a notebook and I'm going to take notes of everything. Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? What is the target? Which way is it facing? Is it an open lane? Is it a tight lane? Are there big trees, little trees? Literally anything I can think of to note on this particular target. Then I'll write down my judge, my guess, then I'll write down what the actual yardage was. This helped me more than anything my rookie year. My rookie year, I would have 2 or 3 bad targets a tournament that would keep me from winning. Never won. That off season, I started taking notes on everything because I'm like, I don't know where I'm messing up. After I did that for about 2 months, I went back and started looking at my logs, and I was messing up on specific targets consistently. Like the hyena, I underjudged by 2 yards every time I judged it for like 3 months in a row. Without taking notes down, I would have never realized I was doing that because there's so many targets blended into a range. You just don't realize stuff like that. Then I realized when it's dark outside, it makes the target look further. I'm overjudging things when it's cloudy or when it's a dark target in a dark lane because I can't see detail on it, and my mind is just assuming and presupposing that it's further because I can't see as much detail. And the opposite of that, when it's bright and sunny, I was underjudging targets because I could see so much detail on the target that my mind thought it was closer. And so when you start realizing things like this and you start putting pieces of the puzzle of holes in your game, you can really fix a lot of problems. You can band-aid those on the range. So now in a tournament situation like here, I'm in an open field, a coyote that I know I have a tendency to underjudge, and it's bright outside, which makes him look even closer. I know I need to add a little bit to whatever this target looks like in my mind. All right, so I know that's a lot of information right out of the gate, but yardage judging is a lot of information. It's not as simple as walking up and going, that's 34 yards. Doesn't work that way. And I think that's the way most people think this works, and that's why nobody wants to try to do it anymore, and they want to go to the known class because all they got to do is click it with a rangefinder. But this game is a lot, and people have dedicated their whole lives to it. Like like I have. And it's not about just walking up and seeing this target and going, oh, that's 42 yards. I don't know if that's how far the target is, but all that information I told you that I learned and I keep learning about myself helps me to make a good decision on this target. So what we already know, it's bright outside. I have history of shooting low on this target, so I already have that in my mind. And now I'm going to go through my process on how I would judge this. There's nothing in the way of me in this target, but I'm not necessarily a ground judger. I do utilize that in my arsenal. You can't just be a ground judger. You can't just be look at the target and get a feel. You need everything. You need to be able to use everything to your advantage. So let's look at this target. What I start with is a window. What is the furthest I think this target could be, and what is the closest I think it could be? So let's look at this target. I think the furthest it could be 42 yards. I think the closest it could be 38 yards. So I have a 4-yard window. I need to spend the next minute shrinking that window before I have to shoot. So while hopefully in this situation I'm not up first, because the big thing that we all use is the sound of each other's arrows. We have a speed limit that is 290, so we're all shooting within 3 or 4 foot a second of each other. We all know what these bows sound like at 40 yards, 42 yards, 43 yards, 30 yards, 50 yards. So I'm hoping that I'm not up first, and I can, while I'm judging off to the side, I can listen to my competition's arrows. So that first arrow goes, if I'm thinking it's 39 yards, that first arrow goes and it sounds like 42, I'm instantly like, boom, I got to add some yardage. I need to protect this 10 ring. On top of that, if it's McCarthy, somebody I really trust to make a great shot, and we think a lot alike on the range, you know your competition, he shoots it in the leg, I'm instantly like, there's something really deceiving about this target, and I need to take a closer look at it. So you just have to use all that information. You have to be very smart to be a good yardage judger. So that being said, my window is 42 and 38. Just off history, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of 38 because I really don't feel like it's that close, because I always shoot this target low. It's bright outside. I'm honestly more between 40 and 42 with my number after I use my past history and the conditions that I'm looking at. There's only about this much room under the 12 of 8 before I get to the 5. Another reason I definitely don't want to shoot low. So let's go and say I don't have to have this 12, right? I don't have to have it. We're just shooting, but I do not want to give up an 8. So with that being said, I'm going to try to find my absolute, which is my next step. And an absolute is something I came up with on my own for a name. It's just, when I grew up, I didn't have a range. When I won my first pro tournament, I didn't have a 3D range. I had one 3D target and a bag target. And I shot that bag target at 30 yards every day, over and over, my whole life. And a bedded buck was my favorite one at 30 yards. So I feel like I can pick out 30 yards, no matter the situation, no matter where I'm at. And I call that my absolute. If I'm looking and I'm just coming up with blanks, nothing's clicking in my head, nothing seems to be jumping out of me, I need to go then to my absolute and double check everything. So I'll find 30. I feel like I can pick 30 out. And you need to be a good yardage judger to have an absolute, something you can fall back on, to double check your guess, to give yourself a way to get a number to shoot a 10 on those targets you just have no idea, you have no clue. So if I find my 30, I can imagine it right there, and then I walk it back to the target in 5-yard increments. 30, 35, 40. I feel like that target's still on the other side of 40 for me. So that being said, I'm going to probably make a decision that 42 is the furthest I could see this target. 41, if I had the 12, it would be my number, but I'm going to shoot this target for 42 and know that that's probably going to get me a 10, and I'm going to try to break a great shot on the 12 with all that information. The target's 41 yards on the money. So if I had to have it, I would have shot it for 41. I knew that would be a good play at the 12. 42 I knew would give me a chance at the 12. And honestly, at that distance, that's about an inch. So I still might clip the top of that 12, but probably going to be a 10 just over it. But that's kind of how I would strategize here. This would be considered open, which you have to take into consideration. Another situation you might get in is a bunch of little trees. If you get in forests that are little bitty trees, it makes the target look further because there's way more trees between you and the target, and it's just the way your mind sees it. And if there's just a couple giant trees, makes that target look like it's right in your face, because the trees are so big, everything's so big. You have to take into consideration the size of the target. This is a little target. Normally that makes people think it's further. You shoot an elk target at 50 yards, the elk target looks like it's 40 because it's so big, it looks like it's right in your face. You have to know your targets, you have to know your competition, and you have to know yourself to be a great yardage judger and make a good decision with the numbers that you get. So that being said, this was a success. I would call this judge a major success. Let's go look at one or two more scenarios, maybe in the woods in a thicker environment, and I'll kind of break down how I would judge that target as well. All right guys, we are at another lane. This is the lynx target, a little bit tighter lane. The ASA the last few years have been putting us in extremely tight lanes. Like you can only see the vitals. Sometimes even part of the scoring rings are covered, which is not supposed to happen, but sometimes it does. Makes it very difficult to judge in detail. The preferred way that all the pros judge is just look at the target and a number comes to you, because we look at so many targets and we practice so much that on a good day it's just clicking. Like you look at this target, boom, you get a number in your head. That's probably a really good number. But when they cover up most of the targets, you're in tight lanes, or on bad days, that's when you have to utilize all the stuff I've been talking about. I utilize it every target anyway, really just to double check. But some days it's just flowing better than others. And some days I look at targets and do not have a clue. And those days are the ones I really have to pull from the information around me, all the things I've learned, and make a good decision. So the first target, we judged protecting the 10 ring. Didn't have to have a 12, but wanted to give ourselves a chance, but definitely not give points back like we would in a normal qualifying round during a Friday round, trying to make it to the finals. This target we're going to judge as if we got to have it. A 10, we're out, we lose. So we are only focusing on the one ring we want to hit, a 12 or a 14. McCarthy said something to me last year, honestly, that clicked with me, made a lot of sense. And Dan McCarthy I talk about a ton because I consider him a fierce competitor, very smart guy, and I try to learn from everybody, even my toughest competition. So McCarthy said, we were talking about shooting to win, having to hit a ring to win. And he said some days, or when we're even on the qualifying range, we're not allowed to shoot 14s. He said, I judge it like I'm shooting at the 14s, because the 14 is up in the 8 ring. And if you miss it, it's pretty much over. I mean, and there's no safe spot around it. You have to judge it exactly the way you think it needs to be judged to hit the ring. A lot of times when we're shooting at a 12, we're subconsciously, whether we mean to or not, judging it, protecting the 10, because we don't want to shoot an 8. So he's like, if I really have to 12 something, I just imagine that I'm shooting at the 14 and I judge it that way, because your mind interprets things differently. And so that really clicked with me, and I did that some last year, and it really truly worked. So I'm judging this with no safety net. I'm going to judge this and really be aggressive with my judge. With that being said, I judge it the same way. Hopefully I'm not up first. Hopefully I get to hear some arrows. I think about my past history with this target. And the lynx, you have to look at which way it's facing. And when it's facing left, the way it's facing now, the core is the 8 ring. So on the other side of this target, if it's facing right, the 8 ring is bigger than the core. So you don't have nearly as much room under this. But since we have to 12 it, nothing else matters. If I shoot a 10, I'm either out of the finals or I lose the tournament. So I don't care about a 10. I don't care if I shoot an 8. I don't care if I shoot a 5. The only thing that matters is hitting the 12. So that's the way I'm going to judge it. But say I lead it, I don't get to listen to arrows, I've still got to find my window. So if I look at this target quickly, it's very similar to the last one. The furthest I could see this target, again, is about 42 yards, and the closest I could see this target is about 39 yards, honestly. I have a pretty good history with this target. when I first came out, I judged it low a lot. Then I think I overcompensated and started judging it high, and now I feel like I judge it pretty good. Obviously make mistakes, and might make one right here on this video. But I'm just gonna pretend like I gotta 12 this thing to win the World Championship, the Classic, and judge it that way. So taking everything else into consideration, I'm gonna look at my absolute next. Find my 30, and I see my 30 about where those thick roots start, where the grass ends and there's like a dark root sticking up. That's about where I see my 30-yard mark. And then if I walk it back 5 yards, this target's really looking like that 40-yard mark is where I'm ending up. So my least number was 39, my far number was 42. My absolute's telling me more of a 40-yard mark. So knowing I gotta have it, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel the furthest number away, 42. So now I'm stuck with 39, 40, 41 as my 3 numbers. Knowing that if it's 39 and I shoot it for 40, I have a chance to hit the bottom of it. Knowing that if it's 41 and I shoot it for 4, or if it's 39 I shoot it for 40, I have a chance to hit the top. If it's 41 and I shoot it for 40, I have a chance to hit the bottom if I make a great shot. My play is probably gonna be 40 yards and execute the best shot I possibly can at this ring, knowing that's an aggressive number, but it might be 1 on each side of it. You see, that's 3-yard spread. That's not me walking up and going, it's 40.5. That's me taking my window, shrinking it, using history, using the situation, and picking the number that gives me the best chance of hitting this ring. So that would be how I would play this target. I'm gonna range it and see what that would have got me. I didn't pre-plan this. It's 40 yards on the money, okay? It don't always work that way. I lose tournaments making those same decisions, but those are the smart ways that it wasn't 40.1, it was 40.0. But that's the smart way you go about breaking down a course from not having to 12 it to having to 12 it. If that was the target on a range that I didn't have to 12, I'd have probably shot it for 41 or 42, my safer side of my numbers. Or I might even, if I literally walk up to this and my window is huge, like I'm struggling today, could be 43, could be 38. That's when I'm probably gonna go with a number like 42, call upper and aim at the lower, and play that rise of the 10 ring, knowing I probably got too much yardage, but not having a clue where in that window the actual number is. I'm playing the whole 10 ring, still giving myself a chance to 12 it. I never aim center 10 hoping for a center 10 at any point ever in the game, unless all I got to do is hit an 8 ring to win the tournament, which does happen sometimes. But you judge it the same way. You don't all of a sudden, I think maybe that's another thing I should address. When you have a lead, people start protecting. They start everything gets bigger. They start going, I don't have to 12 it, I just need to keep it in the 10 ring. Well, when you do that, everything you're focused on gets bigger. Your focus in your shot gets bigger, bad. The focus in how precise you're judging it gets bigger, bad. And that's when mistakes are made and you don't keep it in the 10 ring and you lose the tournament. You need to keep that intensity and precision throughout the entire first shot all the way to the end and final shot, no matter what your lead is, because I've seen crazy things happen when people let their focus wander because they think they've got it in the bag. And I've done it myself. So if I had to hit an 8 on this target to win a tournament, I still judge it exactly the same. I gotta have it. High, low, doesn't matter, I gotta have it. Then I'm gonna aim center mass of the 8 ring, making sure I don't make a mistake here. That's just the way you play the game with yardage. Honestly, I know this has been a ton of information on yardage judging. It's not as hard as people think if you do this the right way. If you have history, if you take the time to take notes and learn where you make mistakes, learn what targets you struggle with. Javelina, for example, I've struggled with since I was a kid, continue to struggle seeing it as far as it is to this day. It looks closer to me no matter the situation. I have to add 3 yards to that target every time I shoot it, no matter what. You have to know these things about yourself before you can become a good decision maker. So I would like to say I'm not a good yardage judger. I'm a good decision maker, and it makes me look like a good yardage judger. So all these guys that say I'm just not good at judging yardage, I've tried it and I just suck at it. That's because you're looking at it the wrong way. You think you got to be able to come out here and look at that target and go 40 yards is what it is. That's because that's what it looks like. Nope. I'd say it looks like 41, and it looks like 39. It looks like it could be 42, but I make decisions based on all the information I have. And that's how you become a consistent, great decision-making yardage judger that could compete with the best in the world. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope this information has helped you. This is what I've learned over the last 30 years of playing this game. If you like everything you're hearing, please hit subscribe, hit that like button, that notification bell. We're going to be bringing you a ton more information that hopefully helps you like this video did.